I know all the things. Okay, we are live on LinkedIn, and let's see. Okay, might be live on Instagram. Let's see. Okay, Zoe and I were just talking about straws, and at some point, her water bottle will make an appearance.
I'll just show everyone now.
And amenities
Ooh.
of drinks and beverages. I've got this. No straw.
The straw.
No straw. And hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking a coffee break with us. And I'm Sarah Ng. I'm a career coach for women in tech, and I run Authentic, which is a group program for women in tech who are several years into their tech career and are like, wait a minute. I want to find a career that energizes me and actually speaks to who I am, within or out of tech. And Hey, How Was Your Day was created out of this and is a coffee break series with a fascinating woman in tech who is living authentically. And we get a glimpse into their past, present, and future. And Zoe is to my right, I think it appears that is a product person. And in parentheses, that means, or with an asterisk, is product manager, product designer, and also you do so many other things. You're a creativity guide, you make killer focaccia. And then I was just looking at like our past conversations. You're also a travel advisor. And I think you could add
To the list.
like a million other things, which we're going to find out and like delve into. So,
Can't wait.
yes. Oh, and so welcome, Zoe. It's good to see
Thank
you.
you. I'm excited to be here.
And this is our first one-on-one conversation ever.
Which feels crazy because we've exchanged voice notes, but obviously that's not synchronous. So it's fun to
Yeah.
be synchronous.
I've come to your creativity workshops, which everyone should attend. They're amazing, and Zoe facilitates them so well. And we read each other's newsletters and send notes like, oh, this, me too. Keep it up. And yeah, I just feel like I love having internet friends and then meeting them in internet real life.
Yeah, internet, real life.
And getting to finally talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. It's been really fun. I was just reflecting to someone yesterday that I feel like I took a pause from internet friends
Mm,
and networking for a couple years. I got a little burnt out on it after 2020 and just sort of like it was all of our lives for so much that it just
yeah.
I needed to take a pause. And then this year I've been on a sort of a light mission. Mission feels like too aggressive, so I'll just do like mission light of connecting with people and kind of like authentically networking. So been really fun to see where that's taken me this year.
Yeah, I bet that topic, authentic networking, resonates with so many people. Like I just got a message from someone who's like, it just doesn't feel fun to reach out to people and send like those DMs,
Yeah.
cold or not, but it just it's hard work. So I'm
Yeah, it
interested to
is.
see like how you do it because I bet you're doing it with some creative, fun twist.
It's honestly, I'm kind of one of those people who really believes in like where your intention goes, that energy flows. So just by
Mhm.
having the intention of wanting to meet people and being available to that, I find that folks are just sending me a DM on LinkedIn or emailing me to after my newsletter. So it's more just so like the act of authentically putting myself out there in
Mm,
spaces which are typically more virtual for me because I like that. That's where I am now, and some in person. And by that like availability and openness, it brings in other people, and there's just like a mutual curiosity. So I don't have like oh, I'm going to reach out to 5 people every single week, or I don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a rhythm or a routine with outreach for that, but I just put myself in spaces and I put my work and myself out there in ways that feel authentic and true to myself. And I think that, comes back to me. I've, been intentional about like joining Old Girls Club, the Slack
Mm,
community for, women in male dominated spaces. And I think that's played a part hosting my own workshops and weekly planning sessions or co-working sessions, just like creating space for myself to do what I want or need to do
Yeah.
attracts people that want to do the same things that I do or have the same values. And so it's been a really like natural evolution of authentic networking in my mind.
Yeah, it almost feels counterintuitive, which is a cool thing of actually outreach isn't about always necessarily like going out and like chasing after people.
Mm,
Yours was about creating like what you wanted and showing up. And
yeah.
so how do I do that? How do I create the space I want to see, but also like I'm just gonna be here and then like whoever thinks that's cool can like come with me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's cool to see like who shows up. And I was reflecting the other day, I was like, most of the people that come to my Monday morning weekly planning session, I have never met in real life. Like my
Mhm.
friends who live in the same city as me don't come to that. And that's fine. Like we just have different interests. We're in different seasons of life. Like some of us work in person, some of us are remote, etc. And so it's interesting to me that like who shows up in those spaces and how you really just attract new people if you open yourself up to that availability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but with my friends, they'll be like, "You're hosting what?" And
Yeah.
like, "What's going on?" Like, "You're running this like we're both doing creative mornings. You're hosting this field trip about what topic?" Like,
Yeah.
maybe
What
I'll
is a
think
field
about
trip? Who's gonna
that.
go? Like what's creative mornings? I'm like, "Ugh, just don't worry about it."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, let's start from the beginning. We'd love to hear about a day in the past and like take us
Mm.
to what age you're thinking about and like set the scene.
Mm. Let's see. I often come back to a version of myself that was probably like, I don't know, 8, 9, like in that range. So what is that, like
Mm.
first grade? Often after school, I would go to my mom's office and I would just like make myself busy because I didn't have like a daycare or after school care or like a nanny or anything like that. And so I would raid the supply closet, so I'd get myself, like, all the highlighters and pens, like, they had a whole wall of, like, a stationery store dream, and I was, like, that kinda kid who, like, collected pencils and pens and had, like, erasers that were shaped like different types of food, like, that was a whole trend of my
Oh, okay.
childhood.
Were they
There
like
was, like, a
smelly ones?
there were some that, like, smelled different things, but I remember always asking my grandma to take me to this, like, Japanese stationery store, and
Mm.
would get to buy, like, one thing, and, so eventually I had a collection of all these things. So, I loved stationery, and I would, find all sorts of things in their office supply room, and I would start, like, making cards for people, and so I'd go up to everyone in the office and I would ask them like, "Oh, do you have a card you want me to make? Like, is it your kid's birthday or,
Well,
Valentine's Day?" Or like, I don't know, I would find something and then I would charge them like 25
oh,
cents for
uh,
it. So I like very early on had kind of entrepreneurial spirit. I used
yeah,
that
your
in
first
in
business.
some yeah, it was my first business and I think that like creativity and connection sort of
Mm,
like through line of like I love to draw, I love to write. I've always been very complimented on my handwriting for
mm.
whatever reason. So like making cards for people was a very I don't know, natural thing for me as a young girl to do and then making it into a business. And then sometimes I would even hire my mom's employees to work for me, but then they would pay me to work for me. So I was really
Why were they paying
innovative.
you?
I don't know, just because I had the charisma of a 8-year-old, young girl at the time. So, yeah, I often think back about, like, that version of myself, when
Mm.
I, like, think about, little Zoe or the inner child, and she was just like, "Go to school." I don't even know what I did at school. I wasn't, like, someone who was super into school at the time, but I loved making things and like talking to people. I was always very curious. My mom always says I was very like confident, almost to the point of bossy sometimes.
Mhm.
So that those were my after school days. I played sports and I did all that, but my strongest memories are more so the ones where I was trying to sell something to someone. Like I was a Girl Scout. I sold my grandfather's homegrown tomatoes around the block. Like I just love to, make something out of nothing was kind of the energy of little Zoe.
Oh my God. You're doing it 8. Okay, let me like replay that back to you. So like to make sure like I got it in my brain. Like you at 8 would come after school after a long day at school. Who knows like what we learned and what we did.
Who knows?
Who knows? And then you're like, right, I gotta like run my business now. And so
Yeah,
you
gotta
would
hustle.
make cards, do some user research about like what the people needed.
Yeah.
And then you would make cards using resources, like being very resourceful, using like the stuff from your mom's stationery cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
I was, wow. That's a lot in like I'm applauding you type of way. Oh my God, that's such a good story.
Yeah, my parents kind of always laugh at me. They're like, "Remember when you did that?" And
Mm,
what happened to that version of Zoe? And I think in the last couple of years, I've been trying to bring her back a little bit more than maybe I was in previous years. So
yeah.
she's present.
I see parts of that in you for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. It's fun because I got an iPad a couple of years ago, and so I've taken to drawing on the iPad app
Mhm.
or whatever the software Procreate, and that's brought out a lot of like the stationery card making Zoe. And I even remember like I made a logo and it was called the Card Making Company, CMC. So it had like it looked like it's very like East Coast, like monogram, like the little
Mm.
C, the big M, and then the little C, but it's always like the order always confused me. So that was my first business.
Wow. Do you remember some of the cards that you made at 8?
Oh, it was a lot of like birthdays for partners of the people that, worked there, their wives or
Mhm.
husbands. I do remember that there was like what's it called? It was like administrative celebration day or whatever, and it was for all the secretaries because at the time I think
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
still a very common thing for people to have, and so I made a big banner that was like, "Happy Administrative Day," or whatever it was, and they kept it for years and would put it out every single year, which I thought was
Oh,
really sweet.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Like I picture this like very celebratory, colorful, knowing you. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, with only highlighters, so, my color palette was
Oh,
pretty limited, but it was still very colorful.
very like, well, highlighted. It's like very neon.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And then let's see. Let's see if there's anything like we can carry through, or maybe it's not. Maybe you've like completely changed now.
Mm.
Tell me about a day now, like in your present. What's that like?
A day now, I think, like I said, I've been the past 2 years, I've really started to come back to a version of myself that is more creative and is writing and drawing and creating more. So, for me, the best mornings start with a sunrise. I live by the
Mm,
beach, about a mile from the beach, so waking up and going to see the sunrise, just it's like the best version of self-care for me, and I'm
mm,
pretty much an early bird, but it's still hard to get out of bed. Like, beds are cozy, and so it's tough for me, but when I do it, it's like my day is 10 times better. So a beach walk, the sunrise. I love going to a coffee shop and journaling and just like
mm,
doing kind of morning pages. It's not every day for me, but when I do it, it's really supportive and therapeutic. And then from there, I get the best work done in the mornings from like 8 to 11, 8 to noon, I would say. So whether I'm kind of like working on my own projects or doing like workshop planning or writing for my newsletter, that's when it's typically done.
mhm.
And then my afternoons are kind of more for like the administrative work or random things to do around the house. I've worked remotely just about all of my career, so even before
Wow.
COVID. So
Yeah.
I feel I feel familiar with that life and trying to sort of like integrate doing laundry and going to doctor's appointments or whatever I need to do with my day. So typically like to reserve that for the afternoons and then cooking dinner, going for a walk, maybe going to a hot yoga class. It's kind of
Mm,
pretty simple. I have really started to enjoy simpler days and the power of, routine in the right moments, but like spontaneity in the
mm.
right moments too, as I've gotten older.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the presence of a routine is something like I've gotten to appreciate to the point where when I go on vacation, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go back to like this time waking up and it's like, who, what happened to me?
I know, or even on vacation, I'll be like, "Oh, I wanna wake up and see the sunrise," or
Mm,
gotta, like, wake up and have my coffee, and yeah, it's interesting finding the balance of, um, like, what I was just talking to someone yesterday, and I'm writing about this, like, how to experiment with your habits and rituals while you're on vacation, and
mm,
how to, like, accept that you can still have habits and rituals when you have so much free time, and how it's sort of a place to, like, explore a new routine or a new experience if you're in a new place or even if you're just like thinking differently. So I think that the misconception that like vacation should be a free for all is something that is not helpful for me personally.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's either like filling it all up with the things like we should do
Yeah.
every
Yep.
single monument, or like, okay, I'm zoning out by the beach. Surely there's like, it's not just like these two ends of the spectrum, but there's like things
Sure.
to, I like the experimenting of
Hmm.
what feels good.
Yeah.
And then something that you mentioned was like, okay, like giving yourself the permission or intentionally adding simplicity to your days.
Mm.
And I wonder what does simplicity mean?
Mm. To me, I mean, I think it varies. Um I am going through sort of like a work transition and what my days look like, and going from, working for a company more sort of working for myself.
Mm,
And I spent about a week with nothing really on my calendar. And I got to the end of the week and I was like, what did I do? Like I felt dirty isn't the right word, but it's the only word
mm,
that's coming to my mind. I just didn't I felt like cobwebby. Maybe that's a better word. I just felt sort
mm,
of like, ugh, I didn't shake it out like I want to every day. And I'm a believer in human design, which is like a spiritual paradigm. I'm a manifesting generator, and I'm the type of person that like when I hit the pillow, I should fall right asleep. Like I need to
mm,
wear out my energy every day, and so
mm,
if I don't do that, I feel cobwebby. I feel sort of stuck. And so what I've learned about myself is like I find simplicity in sort of like putting pen to paper. And by that, I mean like having different days for different things and knowing when
mm,
I'm doing something. And simplicity for me is when something's like out of my mind and into a place. And everything sort of like has a place. And
mm,
not in the sense that like my life is rigid and I can never not do something that's not on my schedule, but if it's just sitting in my brain, it'll make me feel overwhelmed and anxious and, insert 10 other words versus when it has a place to be. So for me, simplicity in a week looks like putting together sort of a skeleton, giving myself like moments of freedom and moments of scheduled activities and then saying like, "Okay, I know I have to do this one task, like pick up my bag from the repair shop." If
mhm,
I don't tell myself I'm doing it on Friday, then
mm.
every day I will think about it and try to fit it in my schedule every day. And it's
Yeah.
not like I have it on my calendar on Friday if I'm going to go from 9 to 9:30. It's just a Friday problem for Zoe. And that to me breeds like
Mm,
simplicity of time and space and being able to sort of like settle into each of the days.
yeah.
Um, and simplicity to me also just like means relishing in little things. Like this week, my big simple win was that I went to the grocery store on Monday and I live in Florida and Publix is like the
Mhm.
grocery store. Like, if you live in Florida or in the surrounding areas, like, you love Publix. Like, people are very proud of the grocery store here, which is interesting. But they have a buy one, get one free thing every single week. And so I went to the grocery store, I spent $100 and I saved $50 because I bought so much on BOGO. And I was like, that is a simple win. Like, nobody asked for that, but like this is like the simplicity, and I found so much joy in that. So I
Mhm.
think for me it's just like finding space for things is simplicity, and it's
Yeah.
also enjoying just like the daily things that you're gonna have to do. Might as well
Mm.
find some some little treat in it.
Yeah. I saw like or I heard some real energy about, okay, I need to shake it off each day. Like I need to get this energy out. And
Yeah.
I think there's a physical component, but there was also like I have all these thoughts and like creative energy that I want to express. And so having those mornings to whether it's like strategy or workshop facilitation, like letting that part out and then
Mhm.
giving space to whatever you need to get done. Maybe it's admin, like I need to go to Publix, although that's probably like a fun thing. And then like, okay, this is the time. I don't need to think about it. I can like release it from someone described it to me as like the background process in a computer. Like it keeps running, like,
Mm,
release it and
totally,
it's scheduled for this.
totally.
And I know there's like a real I bet you probably experience this of when you're writing something, it's like a release more than saying like just in my head I'll make a mental note or I'll type it out, like the
Yeah,
physical embodiment of it.
totally, and I mean, I can't rattle off statistics or studies about it, but there are a ton of studies about how the process of writing something down
Mm.
is just a different way that your brain processes, and I'm such a believer in that. I have tried countless times to use said iPad as my daily planner, but if it's not in front of me, like, I have a weekly pad that
Yeah.
just lives on my desk open all the time. I don't close it because if
Mhm.
I close it, out of sight, out of mind. Like, I'm
Yeah,
a very visual person. I'm a
same.
designer, so it's like I need to see the things that I need to use. And if I don't see them, I don't
Mhm.
use them. And so the balance of like visual clutter and like
Mm.
visual usage is a funky balance for me. But I think that that helps just like I know it's there, I wrote it down, it's not gonna disappear, but, like, to-do list apps, I've tried probably every single one of them, and I've
Yeah.
never stuck to them. So, for me, it's just pen and paper all the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is it doesn't need to be like this reinventing or like this cool new flashy system. It's what
Mhm.
works.
Mhm. 100%. I believe that so much, and it varies for me. I think that's another thing I've had to get used to is, like,
Mm.
I am currently using this notepad. I have another notebook on this bookshelf over here that I will use in different months when I feel like I like that one better than this one. And
Mm.
this is what's
Summer
serving
one.
me right now. What'd you say?
The summer notebook.
Yeah, exactly. I mean seasons. I think like something that I really have had to learn and lean into is like the seasons and the flows and the rhythms of my own body, mind, and soul as a woman. I have like a monthly, rhythm, and my energy dips and moves and changes in each month. I think it also moves with the seasons. So I can't do the same thing every single day. And I think that that's something that
Yeah.
people kind of forget about. And sure, you
Yeah.
especially like women, like you read all these articles and it's like men who have taught us how to be productive. It's like, where are the women teaching us how to
Yeah.
be productive? And again, it's hard because we all have a different, you know, physical cycle, and that makes it hard to create a blanket statement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, there's so much to talk about there with productivity and being like, okay, I'm like expecting myself to perform like a machine every single day to put it all in like a 4-hour work week. It's gonna be amazingly good. Like every time I'm gonna feel so great.
Yeah.
And it's not always like that. And we're not always gonna
Mm-mm,
feel that way.
mm-mm.
And recognizing that and also like giving ourselves grace, like including myself, that's the message to myself of it's not always like we're gonna have no there's no writer's block and I'm like just everything's flowing out of my fingertips and I'm writing this amazing newsletter. Sometimes, but not always, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's been a big, I don't know, lesson for me
Mm,
this year. I just got off a co-working session and I was writing how to find your flow. And it's not
mm,
so much as like, do these 6 things and you'll find your flow. It's really more like, these are the 6 things that I do to trick myself into finding flow.
mhm,
And it's like a grab bag. Like today, I need do not disturb. Tomorrow, I'm going to need the
mhm.
Spotify solfeggio frequencies playlist. And, it's not the same every single day, but if you
Yeah,
find what works for you and you can dip into that bag, it makes it a little bit easier when you're feeling stuck.
totally. Yeah, yesterday for me, it was getting to I'm saying this in public, sneaking into a co-working space that was so fancy, and I got in for free, and I was
Ooh,
like, "Oh, cherish this moment. This will never happen."
yeah. Ooh,
And
I
then I
love
got
that.
low because of it. Yeah, it was right by, like, I'm in London right now, as you know, and by, like, all the fancy embassies in West London, by the
Ooh.
Hyde Park. It was nice.
Very cool. I haven't been to a co-working space in a long time. There's not really any
Mm.
where I live, so it's much more like coffee shop
Yeah,
hopping.
yeah.
But I can imagine I lived in New York for a bit, so going to some there, it's just like it's a different energy, which is always fun.
Yeah. Okay, your present day with the sunrise, and of course, not every day. I'm wondering, describe your future day, like future Zoe, 8 years old,
Mm,
present day, now we're in the future. Who are you picturing? What
mm. Present day Zoe. I said this last year, and I continue to say it, and it's a lot of why I run my creative workshops. So you
mm,
might remember this, but I woke up last year, in the beginning of the year, I was like in the midst of visioning, and I was like, when I close my eyes, I just see myself like on an island
mm,
painting. And I'm not a painter. My partner will tell you that we live on an island because technically we live on like an inlet or whatever. But I'm like, this is
mm.
not the island I'm talking about. Like, I want to be on a remote island, like Richard Branson style. And that's just what I picture. Like, I just wanna be in, like, a warm tropical space. I wanna be creating
Mhm.
art. I wanna be barefoot. I wanna surf
Yeah.
every day. Like, I wanna go to the coffee shop and people know my order and people talk to me
Mhm.
about, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. Like, I talk about simple. Like, that's what I want for my life, kind of more than anything, and it
Mhm.
hasn't changed in the last year. I'm not like I don't think I have, like, a big, like, "I'm the CEO of this company." I'm just like, "I'm the CEO of my own life, and I can kind of do what I want," and that doesn't mean I don't have a successful business doing
Mm.
whatever it is that will unfold for me, but for me, it's, when I picture myself in the future, it's that woman. She's
Hmm.
drinking a glass of wine on a Tuesday at 2 o'clock and painting or creating or just, like, using her hands. Like, I think, as someone who's worked in tech for 10 years and grew up in Silicon Valley, I've sort of
Mm.
been had a phone or computer in my face from a very young age, and so a lot
Yeah.
of me wants to go the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I see the strong visual of you, like, going to the coffee shops, you're barefoot, or you have, like, of course, it's colorful, and you're, like, impeccably dressed as you always are,
Oh,
and
thank
it's
you.
flowy, and you're like the coffee regular coming into town, like, in the middle of taking a break from painting, and I think there's something about, like, connection, like, deep connection, like, being able to talk about things that are more vulnerable and also, like, more essentially, like, what people care about rather than, like, the facade of things.
Yeah. Yeah, totally, and I think as I put that energy more into the world, I have found it. Like, I found a new coffee
Mm,
shop, and I've made friends, and I go there, and I talk about things that are important to me, and so it's interesting to see how it slowly
yeah.
has started to build even though I'm not that older version of myself quite yet, but I go to figure drawing class once a month and, I'm finding ways to, like, make this next version of Zoe, a today version.
Mm. I think there's a quote there, like, "Make the next" like, picturing it already in a book. "Make the next" what was it? "The next version of Zoe, the today version." Oh, yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in that, like, Your higher self is not it doesn't look she doesn't look different than you today, and I think it's a term that's really used in the spiritual, the coaching spaces, and it's like,
Mhm.
you don't need to change who you are to, like, reach the potential you think you have. That sounds very, like, lofty, but it's been a teaching of my own life to be like, "No, this like, the higher self is you. She's there. You just have to listen to her. It's not a state
Yeah.
or a person or an age that you will reach. It's every day. You just need to access her."
Mm. It's not a pedestal that we're putting other people and ourselves on.
Yeah,
It's actually like,
exactly.
it's here, it's present now.
Yeah,
Love that.
exactly.
Hmm. No wonder you're a creativity guide. Like this behind the ethos of everyone being creative and I feel like that's so resonant. And
Hmm, thank
I
you.
wanted to ask, what are all the spaces that like we can be a part of and absorb some of your magic?
Thank you for asking. I write a weekly newsletter, which is, I think, on the screen here. Everything's like mirrored, so I'm like, where are my hands?
We
But
can put it in
KZOE,
the we can put it in the comments after too.
okay. Oh yeah. Yeah, KZOEB at substack.com is where you can find my weekly writings. It's a free newsletter, but if you want to support, you can too. And I host a weekly planning session. So, ways to sort of plan and reflect on your week. It's a beautiful community that I've been hosting for the past 6 months. And we've just started doing co working sessions about once a week. So, that's all linked on the newsletter too. I think my Instagram is on there too. But really, the newsletter has been my focus for the last couple of months and where I feel
Mm.
the most creative and supportive and the most authentic right now. So it's like my little corner. So really putting energy there.
Yeah, I would say it's more than just your corner of someone who gets to receive your newsletter every week. I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, I'm a part of your inner circle." That's what it
oh,
feels
yeah.
like.
Yeah, everyone can join. You can sit with us. On Wednesdays, we were pink. We get,
Me too. It is. Wow, did you plan that?
no, I didn't, not at all.
Well, it is Wednesday, and we can all join Zoe on a myriad of different things. I really recommend the Monday um, focus session. I thought that was such a good way to frame the
Hmm,
weekend. So interesting and neat to see. There were about like 10 people there from like all different, outside of like my tech bubble, from different worlds and like showing up
yeah.
for different reasons. And it was so cool to see like how you brought people together and connected them.
Hmm. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been really beautiful and just a cool way to meet people and support myself at the beginning of each week. So everyone's welcome.
Cool. Zoe, what are you going to do next, like right after this call with your day?
Ooh, I have a call with someone to help them with Typeform. I'm kind of like an
Ooh,
operations whiz, so these kind of questions just fall in my lap. So I'm gonna hop on with them and hopefully be able to help them out.
cool. Yeah, that actually reminded me. You also like do Squarespace design. I was like, actually, you have like a slew of other skills that you can help people with. So yes,
Yeah,
Typeform, Squarespace. Okay. Good luck with that.
whatever
I'm
you
sure
need.
you're gonna blow their mind.
Thank
And
you.
I'll see you later. We'll see you later.
Alrighty, sounds good.
Bye, Zoe.
Bye.